All right. Hopefully this works out. Welcome everybody to B2B Hour here on Auto Conversion. This is a monthly webcast series that we facilitate here for B2B marketing and sales professionals. So that includes business leaders and owners and entrepreneurs. And if that's you, then you are in a good place. Today is Wednesday, February the 9th, and I am Ryan Girardi, obviously your host, and I appreciate you taking the time to join us. If you're here on the live stream, hit that like button, send us your comments and say hello. And if you happen to be catching the replay, do the same thing. Hit that like button, subscribe to the channel, and let us know your comments below. We do unlist our live videos shortly after they post. This is more of a recording session because we like to make micro content. So, our general theme here for the show is how to stay connected and engaged with customers and strategic partners and employees. And we offer a unique product here on Auto Conversion to help you do this. And this is part of that process. So I invite you to be here to learn, to network. You're going to meet some great people today. Hopefully learn some things. Should be a really good time. Our focus today is on great women in business. That includes mothers. And we have a special guest from the voiceover industry joining us. So, I got a lot in store. Our first guest is going to be Allysia Richardson. She's author of the new book, You Are More Than a Mom. It's a busy mom's guide to uncovering her voice, identity, and security. So we'll be talking with Allysia about her new book. And I mentioned voiceover artist Michelle Dillard, who will be on with us. She's also an actor and a playwright and founder of the ministry Until You've Walked in Her Shoes. And for our mindset segments, something we've been doing, actually, this is our 1-year anniversary of this show. We started this in March of last year, and we opened with a mindset segment. So Robb Holman, who you might be familiar with, will be leading that segment for us today. Robb is an internationally recognized leadership expert, executive coach, and also best-selling author. So we'll be doing that. And then we'll have all of us on stage to chat a little bit about everything that you hear. So sit back and relax and hang tight. And we're going to get started right in a moment. We'll be right back. And like I said, we're right back, just like that. So we're going to, I'm still waiting actually for our first guest. She should be here in a moment, but let me just go ahead and get things started. The state of being equal, neither superior nor inferior, greater or less, better nor worse, stronger nor weaker. You get the idea. Equality can take on many faces, and one place where equality has lacked historically is in business, specifically for women in business. And the significance of women's history was officially recognized in 1981 when Congress passed Women's History Week, and that was later expanded to a full month in 1987, and we are in Women's History Month. So kind of commemorating that today with our show. Now, although women in business has become more commonplace today, a look back at the history of women's rights and the role that women have played in business really highlights how much change has happened just in the few short decades. So, for example, as recently as the 1970s, women couldn't even get a credit card without their husband's signature. 70s, well, that's coming on 50 years ago. Kind of crazy to say, but now women are leading and heading up billion-dollar companies and launching businesses. So all in a very short period of time. One prominent great woman in business today is Mary Barra. She's the CEO of General Motors. You can find out more about these folks that I'm reading on the blog that you see right in front of you. Just go to autoconversion.net and look for today's post. Another businesswoman is Indra Nooyi, if I'm saying that right. She's well known for her tenure with Pepsi, and she served as Senior Vice President of Strategic Planning. We had a fantastic woman in business, Cheryl Backhelder, who was on the Inside Out Leadership Show with Robb Holman, a podcast series that we did last year here on Auto Conversion. And Rob and Cheryl had a great conversation. There's a link to that in the show notes as well. And finally, just acknowledge Janice Bryant Howroyd, if I'm saying that right. I should learn this. She's author of the book Acting Up, Winning in Business and Life Using Down Home Wisdom. And in 1976, took a temp job as a secretary and found inspiration. And she launched her own employment services company in 1978, and since then has grown it into the largest privately held employment company owned by a minority woman in the United States. So with March being Women's History Month, here we are. And what I'd like to do, except I don't see Allysia, unfortunately, I hope she's okay. Allysia, when you see this, we hope that you're okay. But I'd like to do is bring Michelle Dillard up, if you're ready, Michelle, and we will get right into our interview. Give me 1 second here. And all right. And there we go. Hello, Michelle.
Hello, Ryan.
Welcome to B2B Hour. You're looking fab today.
Thank you so much.
Great to have you here. And again, we hope Alicia's fine. She did say she was running a bit late. So, we've all kind of bumping things up. It'll just give us a little more time to talk with Michelle today. So, Michelle, let's start with, you have a ministry. I couldn't bring it up because I'm not on Facebook. It's called Until You've Walked in Her Shoes. Could you give us the laydown on what that ministry is?
Sure. First of all, thank you so much, Ryan, for having me on here and acknowledging Women History Month. I appreciate that very much. Yesterday was International Women's Day.
Right.
Yeah, it's so cool to be here with you on the show. But my ministry, Until You've Walked in Her Shoes, it was actually started almost 20 years ago. I started it. I love teaching on the women of the Bible. As a matter of fact, I have a book out that came out in July called Her Story, Our Story. And I've taken the women of the Bible stories and I've intertwined it with our modern day stories as women. Those women in the Bible have, just laid out a wonderful blueprint for us. But I started it because women judge other women. And an observation that I had, we always judge, oh, why does she wear her hair like that? Why does she talk like that? Why does she have 7 kids out of wedlock? And sometimes we have to stop and ask the why. We don't know why a person conducts themselves the way that they conduct themselves. We never know, what another woman has gone through. So I was inspired to start Until You've Walked in Her Shoes. Judge not lest you be judged. So Until You've Walked in Her Shoes, every other year we gather, have a huge conference, vendors and speakers to empower, educate, and inspire women to be their best authentic self. And so yeah, that's how I got started. I just want to encourage and inspire women and to encourage other women. Stop judging and stop and ask them why. We never know what that woman's history is.
We really don't. And that's really beautiful. You said it's an annual conference, and you said about 13 years you've been doing this?
Well, actually, it's almost 20.
20,
And
okay.
start off annually for the first 5 years. Then after that, I kind of started doing it every other year. And then I would do it just one day. But then I went to doing it for a whole weekend, making it 2 days actually, as the conference began to grow. 6 women specifically, they are honored and they receive an Until You Walked in Her Shoes award. And one of the women receives funds that we raise to help further her cause in the community.
That's really awesome. I wish I could bring that up. I'm not a Facebooker, and I know you have a Facebook group, but I think I did put a link to it in the show notes, folks, if you want to check out Michelle's ministry on her Facebook group and obviously connect with Michelle. They were linking to her LinkedIn profile. So that's really beautiful. And I'd love to learn about the curriculum, the stories, women in the Bible, some just phenomenal stories. That's just really inspiring to hear. So cool. I appreciate you sharing that. Let's talk briefly about the voiceover, the voiceover business. You are a voiceover artist. Could you give us an idea of some of the types of work that voiceover artists typically do? What are some more common applications of that trade?
Well, the voiceover industry, I mean, it's $1 million business. And the industry is open wide for anyone that wants to add another stream of income, another tool to their toolkit, just to make some extra money. I've decided to make a full-time career out of it along with my acting. For nearly 30 years, I was a flight attendant, flew all over the world and worked, to serve the public. But I decided it was time to do something different. And I was an actor off and on all those years, but I decided to really hone in on my skills, my acting skills, as well as my voiceover skills. Well, of course, with the pandemic, wow, it forced us all to shut down everything. So as an actor, I wasn't able to do theater. All the theaters were shut down. But I began to hone in more on my voiceover skills. And like I said before, the industry has place for everybody. It doesn't matter who you are, male, female, black, white, tall, skinny. The voice is what sells the product. And there are all different types of genres of voiceover. You have voiceovers for toys, you have voiceovers for commercials,
Mm.
for radio. What I found interesting, you have voiceovers for gaming. If you're a gamer and you sit there play those video games, there are voices behind that.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's room open for any and everybody. There are different voice types. You have to discover what your voice type is. Are you the girl next door, the boy next door sounding? Are you authoritative? Are you soothing and smooth and comforting? There's many, many different genres of voiceover, and there are many different voice types. One of the things, I'm sorry, go ahead, Ryan.
No, I was just thinking about when I watched or listened to your reel. I think it's somewhere down here on your site, and as soon as I heard your voice, my immediate thought was, "That's the woman that you hear all the time." Like you really. It's funny when you hear these styles of voiceovers, like the movie trailer, right, and the commercial. It's got the same tonality to it all. There's maybe a few different styles, but yeah, when I heard your reel, and I was like, oh yeah, like it's almost like I've known you. I've heard your voice all these years. Not to say that you sound like everybody else, but you really captured, from what I listened to, you could, like, wow, that's
And
a real
I'm sorry,
professional
Ryan,
voiceover there.
it
Oh,
your voice. It
ho-
cut out a little bit.
did it? Okay, because when you were
Yeah,
talking, it was cut
you
out.
sound really low.
Now it's all back now. Is it better now?
No.
No. All right, here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to reset my access. Hang tight real quick, folks.
Okay.
This happens once in a while. All right. I don't know if that's any better. Do I sound better?
A little bit. You're
A
still
little bit.
kind of faint. I don't know what happened, but I'll just get a
Um,
little closer to
Rob, can you private chat? Does it sound awkward? Like, is it fuzzy on your end or any issues? Sounds good. Okay, it might just be. All right, maybe it's
yeah, I was hearing you really, really well at first, and now it's like really, really faint for some reason.
okay. So there might have sometimes your internet on one side or the other has issues, so that could be part of the issue. So let me bring your site back up. There we go. So, okay, lots of different applications, like you said, toys. I wasn't even thinking about that. Commercials, audiobooks are good examples as well.
Yes, audiobooks.
Yeah. And it sounds like you've really had to push your VO career since the pandemic. It sounds like you really had to put more emphasis on that. Is that fair to say?
Absolutely. And not just myself. I was just in a voiceover room in Clubhouse, and we were just talking about how the pandemic, of course, impacted us as actors and voiceover artists. And for me, again, I delved more into it, took more classes, bought better equipment. And then I just was impressed to begin to coach beginners. At first, I thought, uh, you know, I hadn't even given it a thought, but then it came to me just one day in time of prayer. So many people begin to ask me, "How do you get in it? How do you get in it?" And then, I just felt inspired. Okay, I'm going to teach an introductory course, and just to my surprise, over 20 people registered. And then after we had the introductory course, I offered a couple other courses. And again, another 20 registered for that because people were interested in doing something different. My motto this year is do something new in 2022. And yeah, voiceovers is something new. It can add another stream of income to your pocket, another tool to your toolkit. And it's fun. I absolutely love it. It is fun. But I do coach beginners, teach you how to get started in the industry. And, when you take the introductory course, you will work as well. We workshop a few things. You will be introduced to copy and teach you how to set up your home studio. And I teach you how to um, introduce you to the different sound equipment that you need, soundproofing equipment that you'll need, different hardware and software. I focus on the I elements, speak to influence, speak to inspire, speak to impact, and speak with intention. And I tie that all into the voiceover industry, but actually those tools you can use in any speaking industry,
Right.
for your corporations, and for those of you who are speaking on Clubhouse or whatever platform you're speaking on, those four I elements come into play. And voice components, it's a lot you learn in that introductory course, but then you have the opportunity to go ahead and register for my other mastermind courses in voiceover. It's a fun industry to be in, and just to hear your voice on a commercial or radio or in toys or audiobooks. Very fascinating.
And it looks like, are you doing a workshop every Monday and Saturday, or is it, how does that work? It shows here
This
Mondays and
is an
Saturdays.
introductory workshop. I offer it on Monday evenings, and I offer it on Saturday mornings. Mondays at 6:30 Central, and Saturdays at 11, I believe 11:30 um, a.m. Central Standard Time. And I have some students that prefer the Monday class, some prefer the Saturday class. So I do two different ones. It's just
Okay.
the introductory
So
workshop.
it's a one-time workshop. You pay $100, you go for one session. That's how it works?
Yes. And
Okay.
mhm.
Okay.
Oh, Ryan, it's so difficult to hear you. I'm sorry.
Yeah, that's too bad. So we'll go ahead and wrap this up. And what I would do if I were you, since you can come back for the panel, is log out and come back in for the
Okay.
panel discussion. So let's go and wrap this up, folks. Michelle Dillard here. You can go to Shell on the Mic. That's the website I have here. Shell as in CHELL on the mic, and you can find out about her workshop and more about Michelle as well. So Michelle, thank you so much. Let's go ahead and have you log out and come back in, and then you'll see Michelle back in about 15 minutes for our panel discussion on Women's History Month.
Sounds good. Thank you so much, Ryan.
All right. And what I'm going to do is take a very brief commercial break, and then we're going to come back with Robb Holman, and we'll have some mindset tips for us. And I have good news. Allysia made it, so she'll be able to join us for our panel discussion as well. We'll be right back, folks.
Hey, Dad.
We could hone in all day, and many people do, in the professional areas and get serious and all buttoned up and polished and all that. And I think there's a place for that. I like to look under the hood of people's cars, so to speak, and ask them questions that, again, lighten the atmosphere, lighten the mood, let me into their life in a way that perhaps other people, or at least I would never have insight into their life unless I ask them stuff like that. Now, I do understand that question's not for everyone. Some people find a question like that repulsive or just not interesting, so they may check out. At the same time, I find that those are a bit more receptive to something like that are the individuals that are getting to know a little bit more of my heart. And there could it be in the midst of me asking something like that, because I find it enjoyable to ask it, for those that actually respond to it, could it be in a very personal, fun way, an alignment starting to come into place of people that are going to be more receptive to who I am and my message at hand. I enjoy people that respond to polling more so than likes and loves and even some general comments. Because now I can take this very specific information they're providing me and do something with it. I can keep it in mind for a further conversation. For me, I'm getting absolutely invaluable information that I can then utilize to better serve them coming out of that polling question.
Well, that voice you just heard was this guy right here, Robb Holman.
No, not too much of me. Not too much of me.
I played that, folks. That was Robb from back in December, last time he was on the show. And we were talking about using the idea of polling, asking questions on social media to engage your network. But today you've got some different tips to share with us. So why don't I make you solo, let you have the stage for a few minutes, and then cue me to come back on and we'll jab about it. And then we'll bring Allysia on for a quick interview as well.
I love it. Yeah. Hey, thanks for having me, Ryan. Joy to be with you. Joy to be with Michelle and Allysia today, as it is International Women's Month, and we celebrated just yesterday International Women's Day. So I couldn't be more thrilled and honored to be one of the men on here to learn from the women that are before us. No doubt about it. Well, listen, there's something really special on my heart, and it has everything to do with mindset. Maybe you've heard someone say this before. Mindset ignites behavior, and our behavior ignites the outcome. That could never be more true. There's something powerful within this organ called the brain. It can either be our best friend, or it could actually be our worst enemy. It's what we do with it. It's understanding about the brain, the beautiful, the wonderful, the intimate, the powerful organ it is, so we can become best friends with it and utilize it, not just for our own benefit, but the benefit of those that are within our sphere of influence that we can serve and serve faithfully. I'm reminded of years ago when I was an entrepreneur. I had two companies, yes, as a person in my, at this particular time, late 20s, and I had a clothing company, a basketball clothing company, and that was more or less my 9-to-5 job. And then I would head off in the evenings, 3 or 4 evenings a week, to a group of energetic young people to teach them basketball through my motivational basketball programs and camps and clinics and leagues. Okay, so I want to take you into my life real quick. It was one of those days with the basketball clothing company that everything that went wrong or could go wrong, guess what? It did go wrong. It started out in the morning. I don't know. What they say is you woke up on the wrong side of the bed. And before long, throughout the course of the day, I was actually looking for more bad things to happen to me than good. And it led to this point of like, when it rains, it pours. You ever hear that before? Well, that was me on this specific day. Now, that had enough problems and challenges all within itself, because now I'm dealing with a mindset thing. I'm dealing with, and things are snowballing in not such a good way. But as 5 p.m. rolled around and one job was coming to an end, I took off. I hopped in my car. I took off to my other job. And this particular evening, about 35 energetic, highly energetic 5 to 7-year-olds were waiting for me about 15 minutes away for me to teach them basketball and help motivate them. Well, between me and you and the rest of the world, my mindset was not in the right place. On this drive, I was recounting the horrible things that happened throughout the course of the day. The fires I had to put out, the clients that weren't satisfied with me, etc. And there was so much negative emotion in that car ride. It was just me. And I'm thinking, what in the world? I got to put on an act for these 5 to 7-year-olds, 35 of them? Yeah, right. And the more I thought about it and started to think and dwell on all the wrong that happened, guess what happened? The atmosphere in the car, like the windows actually started to fog up. You ever been there before? You ever been paralyzed by an unhealthy mindset so much to where it's a negative downward hill spiral of emotion? To where the windows of your car fog up? That was me. Well, I'm here to say this. If you are not familiar with the Velcro and Teflon effect, I'm here to break it down with you for a few minutes. Okay? Velcro does what? Velcro sticks together, right? You get Velcro pieces and stick it on fabric or whatever. It sticks. And then you got Teflon, slides off. Well, don't we know that it just seems that negative things stick together, stick in our minds and our hearts, doesn't it though? And all of a sudden it sticks, and then another thing sticks, another thing, next thing you know it, I'm not in a good place. You're not in a good place. That's the Velcro. And doesn't it seem like sometimes we could, like, I don't know, someone encourage us, someone give us a compliment, and it's not long, like it doesn't stick too much. It can just slide right off like Teflon and be replaced with something negative that sticks to us like Velcro. That's the Velcro and Teflon effect. There's a reason behind it that I want to share with you. Okay. Back in the day, human beings, there's something called survival mode. And let's say years and years ago, when our life depended on certain things, okay, we'd get a negative thought or a fearful thought, and it would actually keep us alive. Now, this is back in the day. These negative things can actually cause us to go into survival mode. They can actually save our life. But see, how many of us have people chasing us down for our life today, day in and day out? We don't. We don't. We are not meant to just survive, where a chemical's released in our body to keep us alive. We are actually meant to thrive. So in a sense, we want to take the negative Velcro, right, that's there, meant there for a survival mechanism, and we want to help retrain our brains to think more positively. Okay, Rob, I'm kind of with you there. All right. I don't want to think negative. I don't want to go a downward hill spiral negative thinking that also now contributes to my unhealthy behavior that contributes to negative outcomes. I want to learn how to retrain my brain to think more positively. And in thinking more positively, we want to do a reverse. We want the positive stuff to stick to us like Velcro and the negative stuff to slide off like Teflon. Are you with me? All right. So, one practical thing I've learned, is gratitude. Now, I know gratitude in our culture, business culture, family culture, it's an overused word. I get it. But stay with me on this. I'm going to take you back to my opening illustration. You remember the windows that were fogging up because there was so much negative energy in the car? And there's 35, 5 to 7-year-old, highly energetic kids were awaiting me to not just be okay. They were waiting for me to bring the energy, the positive energy. So I want to take you back to a moment I had in that car with the windows fogging in and the heat increasing. I disciplined myself in that moment when I really started to feel the heat to dig deep. And sometimes we got to dig real deep. Okay, it was a challenging day. But were there any good things that happened during the day, or was it all bad? And when I did some deep digging, I realized it wasn't all bad. I started to just word by word, line by line in that smelly, hot, sticky car say, Yeah, I'm thankful for this one phone call I had at 10 a.m. today. I'm thankful that I have breath and I'm breathing in this car to fog up the windows right now. I'm thankful that there actually are 35 energetic 5 to 7-year-olds waiting for me. And the more I actually spoke and look for the good throughout the course of my day and in that present moment, what actually started to transpire. My mind started to change. My heart started to change. My outlook started to change. And I went from a perspective of a downward hill spiral, I'm no good, what am I doing with my life, into I know who I am. I'm one that can look for the good in any situation, whether things are happening really good around me or not. This is who I'm called to be. And don't you know, little bit by little bit, as the 15-minute drive started to go into 10-minute drive, then the 5-minute drive, by the time I arrived with these kids, my outlook had completely changed. And yours can too. If you keep in mind gratitude. But studies show this, not just highlighting a list of people and things that you're grateful for, but studies show this, that if you actually have an intentional and consistent time of giving thanks and pause for at least 20 seconds on the people and things that matter most, pause for 20 seconds. All of a sudden, our senses become engaged in this really positive state in a way that if we were just going through a list would never happen. And all of a sudden, we begin in and out of a time and times like this to retrain the brain to think more positively than negatively. And as a result, we begin going from the mere discipline of giving thanks into living a lifestyle of it. So I'm here to say, if I can do it, you can do it too. I am under the impression, and I know this, I know it in my knower, that sometimes, depending on life circumstances, trials, and tribulations, we got to look hard to find the good. But I am a firm believer, and I am under the strong conviction that when we look for the good, we'll find it. It's whether or not we're looking for it. Let's look for it, y'all. Let's look for it. All right. So we are now, I'm just reading some notes here. All right. We're going to go into a panel discussion at this particular time. It's International Women's Month. International Women's Day was just yesterday. How can we not go into a panel discussion to talk about what Michelle shared? We gotta learn from Allysia, talk about mindset stuff as well. Hang tight, and we're going to go into the panel discussion.
The origin really of this program is recognizing that over 90% of small business owners don't have a business plan in place, don't have a strategic plan. And, it's probably not coincidence that, 96% of small businesses fail in 10 years, that the numbers are pretty close. So I boiled down the most important parts of the process and also added what I believe to be a critical part of the process first, really introspecting inside yourself and deciding what's most important to the entrepreneur, like your personal mission, your cause, your reason, your why, whatever you want to call it, so that we can then go ahead and go through the company's cause and reason, and then really establish the entrepreneur's vision and, go through the most important steps like this.
Ryan, I cannot hear you, my brother. You are
he's muted. Yeah.
And I know you have some great things to say.
Microphone check. Yeah, I had myself on mute the whole time. I was saying that you really know how to take the stage and just deliver. So that was awesome. And I like that you took over my role and and led us into the next segment. So thank you for that. Awesome stuff. And Allysia Richardson has made it. You have made it. We're so glad you're okay. Thank you for letting me know you were going to be late. We're glad you're here. Why don't we kick off the panel with you, Allysia, responding to what you just heard from Robb?
Wow. So that was awesome. And it was definitely needed to be for me to hear, because even as, no matter how much you accomplish, there are always going to be times where you feel that you might not be good enough. You feel like, it's like these competing thoughts of like, I know I can do it but what if I can't, kind of thing. And so you have to like side with the positive every single time. Like you cannot give in to the negative, because I mean, as we all know, like whatever you believe, that's what is going to be true in your life. So yes.
Very astute. Yeah. Michelle, how about you? What's your reaction?
I love everything Rob just talked about. What I'd like to add to that is um, there's there's a class I taught recently called Avoid Corrupt Communication. And one of the points I make is taking out the trash in our minds, getting rid of the stinking thinking. But along with avoiding the corrupt communication, we have to speak positively. There's a biblical quote that I love that says, "Can sweet water and bitter water come from the same fountain?" So if you are speaking negatively over yourself, and this goes along with that mindset, what you're thinking eventually comes out of your mouth. Oh, I can't do this. I'm not good enough. Who's going to want to listen to me? And that's part of your corrupt communication, the bitter communication. You want the sweet communication to come out. The sweet, you know what? I'm Michelle, Mabel. I'm going to do this thing today. I know I can do it. I have the training, I have the stamina, I have the experience, or I can do all things through Christ who strengthens me. Whatever you need to say to affirm yourself, let that be the sweet communication and get rid of the bitter communication. You don't want that coming out of the same fountain.
You don't, because it's I call it head trash. It really gets in there and eats at you. But Robb, you brought up something that really needs to be, I think, absorbed and heard, which is that we have negative thoughts because of survival instincts. Can you just elaborate on that a little bit more, so that just to hone in on that particular piece?
Yeah. I mean, as I mentioned earlier, you know, running for your life, for instance, where adrenaline release, chemicals from your body are released, where you're running at speeds, for instance, that aren't even humanly possible. That's not a bad thing. It's just living in that way, in and out of that way all the time and consistently turns into a bad thing. So we got to understand how the brain works so it can work for our benefit and ultimately other people's benefit that we serve in leadership. We serve within our sphere of influence. I think so many times we don't even understand how we operate, how we work, how the brain functions. So we'll just chalk it up to this, chalk it up to that. But we know there's a lot of power with education. And as we educate ourselves on who we are, on how we think, what thoughts we actually have, now we become more aware. And I'm sure Michelle and Allysia, y'all would agree that when we become aware of our thoughts, now we can actually do something about it. Right. We can do something with them, right? So I feel like just being quiet today and listening to Michelle and Allysia personally, Ryan, because every time I'm around these two amazing women and human beings, I learn so much. And I just appreciate how God's made both of you. And yeah, I'm a total student here today. Certainly always something to offer, but far more to learn, especially today, for sure.
Let me take a moment just to let folks know that are watching. Michelle and Allysia both are members of the Get Paid to Speak Bootcamp that we run, that Robb runs here on Auto Conversion. If you go under Masterminds, you'll see it listed there, and I'm showing you the sign-up page right now. And what we do is we get together every month for a 2-hour masterclass, and we go through one of 6 different pillars about building a professional speaking business. So that's where the four of us all know each other. And one of those pillars is your media and your PR strategy. And so what you're seeing, folks, is this in action. You're seeing the GPS program and its members in action, going through the motions of part of their media and PR strategy right here on Auto Conversion. So just to give everybody some context. What I'd like to do before we get too far, we got about 15 minutes here, which is plenty of time, is I'm going to actually go to a different screen. I'm going to bring Allysia on with me for just about 5 minutes here. Allysia recently released a new book, You Are More Than a Mom. And I wish I could have the tagline memorized. Why don't you repeat the tagline for me? Because I don't have it memorized or committed to
A
memory.
busy mom's guide to uncovering her voice, identity, and self-security.
There we go. That's a mouthful. What is the inspiration behind your book? What's the elevator pitch of what led to you writing the book?
Oh man. Well, it starts with my son. My son was born under a pound. And I got caught up in all of his life, all of the things that, we had to do once he was born. So like that meant hospital stays, visits, as well as like daily therapy sessions. And so what ended up happening was I got caught up in all of it and I lost my identity. And I'm a very, I'm a woman who loves like doing business, going after the things that I love. And so I realized that like I'm losing myself and I'm not happy with where I am. And so I went on this journey of finding who I was, like figuring out like how in the world can I balance my son's life, my life, being married, as well as my oldest son, making sure that he gets everything that he needs. And so that's what inspired the book, is just really going after that journey of finding my identity. But once I went through that journey, I also noticed that there are other moms who were just like stuck in the role of mom, and they felt like they felt guilty. They felt that mom guilt, that they couldn't do the things that they really wanted to do because, it wasn't part of being a mom.
That's great. And yeah, it's, if you look at the title, folks, of today's blog post, is Great Women in Business, including moms, because I mean, I don't know if I speak for everybody. Let me just bring this back here. But for me, I think being a homemaker is probably one of the toughest jobs anybody could have. When I'm divorced, but when I was married or even now, when my now ex-wife says, "Hey, can you take the kids for 2 or 3 days?" I'm not kidding. I'm like, I don't know. I mean, it's a lot because I'm not accustomed to it. We kind of adapt, right? When you're living in the home. Let me tell you, when you're not living in the home, it's really hard to switch over. So, shouts out to moms. And I don't just say that. I'm not a virtue signaler. I think homemaker moms and dads that are out there too, that is some of the toughest work out there. And I would argue some of the most important work that we'll all do as well. So I'm gonna leave the stage and let you guys run the show.
Oh no, Dad's gone.
Hey, what do they say when the cat's away, the mice shall play? I'm kind of liking this.
Yeah, or let the prisoners run the prison. So all right, where do you guys want to take it? We've got a solid 10 minutes. Rob, where do you want to take today's conversation?
Well, I would love, selfishly, from Michelle and Allysia, I want to know who influenced the influencers. You all have amazing influence doing what you're doing, as a parent, as as an entrepreneur, business owners. You're out there exploring, you're blazing new trails, honestly. But there's been some women in your life that have inspired you to this greatness. I would love to hear, Allysia, then maybe Michelle, like who's just one, maybe one or two, but at least give me one woman that you're like, yeah, this one came alongside of me. She fanned me into flame. And I thank God for her. Who would it be for you? And don't feel like you just have to have one, but at least one.
Oh, absolutely. It's my mom. Hands down. It's my mom. Our life mimic a lot. My mom had 6 children. She was a single parent. She also had a very sick child, again, going back and forth to hospitals, flying to Maryland. My brother had a rare cancer. Even then, like, and then the passing of my grandmother, like my mom was a very, very strong woman. She showed me how to literally just live life, and go after the things that you want to go after, even with everything that's going around. And, she showed me her strength. And so, yeah, it's definitely my mom.
What was, as a follow-up, and then Michelle, loved it, hit you after this, just to get your, you're such a valuable person and valuable resource. I mean, my goodness. So, but Allysia, I got to ask you this. So with mom, going back to mindset, what was like mom, obviously no one's mindset's perfect, right?
Mm.
But looking at the positive of your mom's mindset with all that she went through and how she invested in you and your siblings, et cetera, what's maybe an aspect of her mindset that you take with you today?
It'll definitely be, I think it's really just like it's her strength. It's just like her strength that it didn't matter what was there, she was going to get it done.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, because I know you talk about like when you talked about mindset, like being in survivor mode. It's like my mom had every reason to be in survivor mode, and on top of that, thinking about all the things that they had to go through as a culture, and to surpass like a lot of that. And a lot, like growing up is like, I really didn't like my mom and da, da, da. But then when I actually go back and I think about the stuff that she went through and then how she's here now, and the strength that she showed through all of it, it's like it made me just respect her so much more.
That's so good. A word that pops into my mind, you talking about your mom's strength, is will. Sometimes we can underestimate the power of the human will and how God's made us. Your mom made some very willful choices that could benefit her children. And you are such a reflection of that. And we are the beneficiaries of just that. Michelle, as you're listening to Allysia and you're thinking, reflecting on your own life, who's a woman in your life that has deeply inspired you? And then maybe what's an aspect of their mindset that has really benefited you and ultimately other people as well?
Great question. I want to go back to the ministry I started, Until You Walked in Her Shoes. And I told you it was inspired by the various women of the Bible, but it was inspired also by the wonderful women in my life. My mother, whom I lost when she was only 50 years old, my grandmothers on both sides, and my aunts. And I have to even say, my pastor's wife, some deacon wives, those women, I clung to them, just for advice and guidance. I can just rattle their names off, and I've honored them in some of my conferences. And when they've come to speak and bestowed them with some wonderful gifts. But I'll go back to my mother, just like Allysia mentioned. My mother was not as educated as she could have been. She raised 5 kids after my father and her divorced. And but she always made sure that we had what we needed. And she always, specifically for me, made sure that I had what I needed. I was the first to attend college. But I noticed as a little girl growing up, I discovered that my mother was illiterate. She often would pull me and say, "Hey, read this for me." I didn't know and understand it. I just sometimes say, "I don't have to be the one to do it." But she saw something in me, and I loved school. I was always getting good grades, and I tooted my own horn. But she saw that I was strong in school. And I remember getting so mad at her one time when I was trying to learn timetables. She would literally turn off the TV. As soon as you got home from school, you sat at that table, you did your homework, and she made me learn those timetables. Oh, and I hated it. I hated timetables. But I realized that she was teaching me something, disciplining me for something better. And of course, I ended up learning those timetables. But I did realize, okay, my mother, and she had a warm heart, but she was also a strong, stern woman. She meant business. She meant what she said and could cook. Oh my goodness. And those sweet potato pies, homemade sweet potato pies, I finally learned to duplicate them.
Ryan, Ryan, this might end up being taking over a whole other shelf. We start talking about mom's pies now.
I'm ready.
Good stuff.
I admit I'm hungry.
Homemade sweet potato pies, peach cobblers, blackberry cobblers, banana pudding, all of it was from scratch. He taught me how to do it. And let me tell you, I make sweet potato pies that make you want to smack your mama. But yes, but she instilled so much in me. She taught me how to be a lady, how to be a woman. And she poured into me. Even though she didn't have the education that I had, she made sure that I had it and provided me, with the tools and things that I needed, to become a successful individual. And they used to always say, Shell gonna be something. That's what my mother, my other, Shell gonna be somebody. They used to say that, and it.
Yeah. So good, Michelle.
Sorry. But it makes me emotional just thinking, that I lost her when she was only age 50. So when I reached the age of 50, I was just so, so grateful, to get there. But in the years that I had with my mother, I learned so much. And she was truly, truly an inspiration, along with the other women that I also mentioned, my grandmothers, my aunts, and some of the women from the church helped just shape me to be the person that I am today. And for that, I am so grateful.
Ryan, so thankful that you shared that, Michelle. I can't help but think of mindset, really what we're doing here today. As Allysia shared about her mom, you shared about your mom, and even the emotions that come out, we're reflecting. And a powerful thing about having a healthy mindset is having times and moments of reflection to focus on the people and the things that matter most. And that builds us up, that inspires us, that compels us to act, to do things that we never do otherwise. So I'm here to say on behalf of Allysia and Michelle, thanks, and we honor your moms as we honor International Women's Month and the day yesterday that we truly celebrated as well. So thanks for sharing that.
Yeah, thank you. And guys, I'm going to try to I might end up getting a little deep here on you guys. They're in the auto industry where I've been in the past 20 plus years, over the last, I don't know, 6 to 8 years ago, maybe within the last 10 years, a couple of conferences have sprouted up for women. There's one called Women in Automotive. There's one called Women of Automotive. A lot of the conferences now have like a Women in Automotive dinner or special something, that's been kind of incorporated into these programs. One of the challenges I think that these initiatives have had is that men, on average, a typical guy thinks, oh, it's for women. It's not for men. I even had someone decline coming on the show today because they were a guy and they're like, oh, I don't really have much to say about Women's History Month. I'm not a woman. And I got to say, I'm like, I think guys are missing the point. They're missing the point. And I'm sure you're nodding. So I'm sure you see that in your efforts too. So I preface that because I think men have a long way to go. We
yes, we do. I mean, can I say miles and miles and miles, but keep going, Ryan.
But we don't even, we, and I speak on behalf of men in general, don't even realize how sexist we actually are, even when we don't think about it. And it's not our fault. I think, humanity evolved to where it is today. Nobody can change that. You can't go and reset it or undo it. All these efforts to erase history and change it, like that's not the point. The world is what it is. When I read the Bible, and Michelle, you talked about the Bible, maybe you can address this. When I read the Bible, particularly like Kings and Samuel, when you're really learning about King Saul and David, when I read it, it just seems very chauvinistic. The content is all about, and there's ways to interpret that, right? Because men and women do have different roles. We're different creatures. We're strengths. We bring different things to the table. But I get a sense from reading that portion of the Bible how chauvinistic and sexist it is. Am I seeing too far into it, or is that really coming through the Bible too?
Did you want to go first, Allysia, or did you?
Okay. You're not disagreeing, Allysia. I can tell you're seeing it too. Okay.
I mean, there are many stories, of course, about the men, and the Bible says there's nothing new under the sun. Yeah, there were some chauvinistic men, but there are a lot of rich stories about women. And that's what I've taken the time to dive into with my book, Her Story, Our Story. I was just teaching on the woman last night, the Shunammite woman. Shunem woman. She was a very wealthy woman, and she had lots of things, but she lacked one thing, and that was a child. But the prophet came and saw through her need. But she was a wealthy woman, an entrepreneur, and during a famine, she lost everything. But she went to the king and asked for the things that she lost over the 7 years if she could have it back. And she got her land. She received crops. She received her home back. There's so many rich stories in Kings, as a matter of fact. That was one of them, the Shunammite woman, and the woman who I'd say ended up in the olive oil business, found herself an entrepreneur when they came to sell her children into slavery because her husband had left her with a mound of debt. And the prophet told her, what do you have in your, ask her, what do you have in your house? She said, a little cruse of oil. He said, go borrow many vessels, get that oil poured in those vessels, and go and sell the oil and pay off your creditors and live off the rest. Now she finds herself in the olive oil business. So yeah, there are all types of people in the Bible, men and women, that we can draw and learn from. I just adore the stories of the women, but specifically in 2 Kings, Ryan, chapter 4. It was those two women that I often teach on.
I'm going to write that down because I know the story of the Shunammite that woman that you had mentioned. That's chapter 4.
The chapter is the woman with the olive oil. She ended up, I say, in the olive oil business.
Allysia, you were chuckling when I was asking the question.
We were entrepreneurs back then in the Bible.
Yeah. And I want to add something. I want to add a piece to that, but I do want to, at least I want to hear what your, I guess, response was to my question.
Absolutely. So I do feel there's a lot of male bravado all throughout the Bible. But what I would like to just bring attention to is I even when thinking about things like that, there's always there's a balance, right? So when Adam and Eve, Adam had his, I don't even like using the word roles, but Adam had his responsibilities, Eve had her responsibilities. But even when it comes down, like I tell my husband all the time, you would not be where you are today if I was not in your life, because I bring that special something to you that influence you to go after more. So you may have the strength, you may be out there making all of the money, but I am the one helping you to make sure that you stay calm. I am the one making sure that, you're thinking and you're seeing different perspectives and things like that. So that's what I wanted to kind of like bring into that, because like even in the Bible, these kings, they were definitely being influenced by their queens or their, concubines or things like that, but there's a lot, but I like to bring like that equal conversation to it. So even though there's a lot of male bravado, there was still that woman there to like, hey,
well, the reason I brought it up is because, I mean, we're talking about the most, I would say inarguably the most significant, work of literature known to mankind would be the Bible. It stood the test of time because it always speaks to very fundamental situations that just continue to repeat itself. And so, here we are in and not the whole world's the same, but we're in a capitalist society that's very materially driven by money and power. And the world's kind of always been that way. And so, men tend to define their success and their identity based on that material place in the world, when the whole time, even these men that have achieved great success, behind every great man is an even greater woman. But going back to my comment is that even today, I mean, we just don't even realize how, talk about head trash, Rob, with your wellness segment, how much toxic thinking is in our genes. It's in our DNA through generations and generations. And we're in this day and age where it's all coming down, it's all coming apart, and it hurts.
Yeah.
And we're all seeing that.
Ryan, I got to share this with you. Michelle and Allysia got me going as they normally do. I'll tell you, you have us chime in much longer together. We're bound to have a Sunday service on a Wednesday today. That's all I'm saying. But I will say this, and I want this to speak for itself. Speaking of the Bible, if you look at the death of Jesus, two out of three people that were at his feet were women, where all the other boys fled. Let me be real with you on that. Second,
Amen.
At his resurrection, it was women that came to the tomb, and he revealed himself first to them.
Yes.
I'm going to let that settle and sink into all the hearers of this. That says a whole lot. And so I'm here to say, the women in my life, my mama, my stepmom, my grandmothers, my wife, my daughter, and those in my life that continue to influence me, like Allysia and like Michelle, I am indebted to you, because I would be wandering in some field hurting if it weren't for the women that have inspired me greatly. And that's all I got to say.
Awesome.
There's 2 point. And with that, we are out of time, folks. Robb Holman, Michelle Dillard, Allysia Richardson. So glad you made it, Allysia. Thank you for being here. And thank you for all of you chiming in on Women's History Month.
Thank you. I just have to say, thank you for making history today, because not only you're interviewing women, but African-American women. You stepped out there to add diversity to this platform. And for that, I appreciate it. And Rob, I am most grateful you are my coach. I just want you to.
Thank you. So beyond honored. Love being with all of you. Thank you.
Thank you, Michelle. All right, folks, we're going to let everybody go. And I'm just going to do a quick wrap up here to finish off today. If you head on over to autoconversion.net, you can, it's funny, there's no subscription option. If you want to get into this ecosystem that we have of coaching and technology and mentorship and just growing and meeting great people like today, look at the mastermind section. I think I have it right. No, I forget where it is. There you go. Go here. You can sign up for any one of these programs absolutely free. And when you do, you'll get an automatic welcome email with all the information on how to take advantage of these wonderful programs, including Get Paid to Speak. You can sign up for free and learn how that program works. There are premium paid components to all of these programs. So get involved and take your career to the next level. Take your brand to the next level here at Auto Conversion. I am Ryan Girardi and signing off. We'll see you next month. But be sure to subscribe to our YouTube channel and get subscribed to our site, because we do a lot more throughout the month beyond this show. Take care, everyone, and thank you.